Hey, good morning, Magic players, Dragon Slayers, and Chantresses and Spell Slayers. Nice to have you with me this morning. We're getting going here. Just got a cup of coffee. Figured there we are. We're live. Nice to see you. Collectors of costly cardboard quadrilaterals, the folks that like to crack open packs and shuffle up stacks of Magic the Gathering cards. It's not that hard. You can join me in the morning when we're doing it a little bit old school here for the show. Old school for those who rule. Have you put that in quotations or maybe put it in brackets, right? Put it in brackets. Magic the Gathering card in brackets. Let's get into some interesting stuff here this morning. I got a nice show for you folks who are tuning in. And before we get going, we're going to warm up just a touch here, like we always do in the morning show. We're going to read off a couple of AI generated Magic the Gathering cards, courtesy of Robo Rosewater. Let's go there now. If you haven't tuned into this already, you know how it works. If the card is playable any way whatsoever, we'll pass it. You'll hear this sound. The sound of the ding. It's a wonderful thing here this morning to hear that bell ring. All right. If the card's got any gibberish on it whatsoever, I know your time is valuable and you don't have time to waste. So this is the time for your place. We'll fail it. If the coach joins us, we'll give it some excessive buzzing. For all of my Magic playing cousins out there, Mr. Benson, nice to see you. Cardboard Splendor follows you around. Yes, for the tracking. You can take a little tour here. Over to this side, we have packs of Magic cards. And then we also have packs of Magic cards. And then right down here, this is where we keep the Magic cards. And over at Robo Rosewater, they keep this Magic card, the Yellamith Sediment. Puppies. I like it. Let's pass it on account of puppies. Already. Show me them puppies here this morning, Wizards. The Scarecrow 2-1 cost you a red and 1. It taps to create a white dog creature token. Doggone it, that's a card. I like it. All right, putting it in brackets here. No brackets on the flavor text. We want to see some brackets. All right. Talking about brackets here this morning, but brackets on your flavor text. I usually always keep my good pen for writing prescriptions in my top pocket, but yesterday all that there was a mercury thermometer, so I shouted, "Some a-hole has my best pen." All right. What else we got here? We got the Mill Master, the Dual Brain, folks tuning in here. Okay, cool. What else we got here? The Ethereum and Decimator, the 6/6 for 8 mana. Woohoo! I like to pay that cost. Flying legendary 6/6 when Ethereum and Decimator becomes tapped. Target opponent gains 2 life and gains 2 life. They gain 2 life. Why does it say 4 life? Should be 4 life. All right, Seagate Sense. Destroy target creature in blue for a blue and 2. This one will get you there at sorcery speed. It's got a need for a little slower gameplay. Maybe this is a bracket 1 card. Definitely not too powerful. All right, if there's one thing that Wizards is good at, it is overcomplicating a simple situation. There's nothing like an overcomplicated solution to something that was simple. Like it. Join me on an adventure where we can talk about things such as Magic cards and all the fuss that's happening. Some interesting news yesterday on February. Where's this rue coming from? February 12th. 2025, an introduction or a text in the group chat alerted me to the fact that Wizards of the Coast Commander Rules Committee has now finally gone ahead and published some findings or some decisions that they're willing to pilot out to the general public, looking for some feedback on the bracket system that's coming to you in your Commander play group. I had some discussion in the group chat. Of course, I found some already spicy decks and some spice that was nice, courtesy of the Twitter X. Found a nice SA deck that's actually fits into bracket one, but more and more people are already making a hullabaloo about this. So I got a news article for you. Let's talk about brackets and what's going on. There's a card that's moved up in price. Let's take a look at this because we want to talk about prices. Dockside Extortionist was a staple. After it was banned, the price plummeted. And at long last, Wizards of the Coast has finally unveiled their vision for the future of Commander. It happened yesterday, and it was following an unprecedented ban that took the lives of many Magic cards, including this goblin, the Dockside Extortionist. It happened in September of 2024. And that followed, the format was left in a state of flux. Now players are trying to reestablish a meta to see what decks will come out on top post bannings. We finally have to look at some of the concrete details about what to expect going forward and what the future looks like for Commander, especially in your play group or at gaming stores around the world. Rather than excitingly, it looks like the future Commander has multiple unbans in store. Set to occur in late April, Wizards hasn't confirmed any exact cards or any catch details just yet, but despite this, players are already recently starting to speculate on about what might get unbanned. Unsurprisingly, the speculation is already starting to cause plenty of price spikes, especially in the Docky Boy. The word February comes from the Latin februarius, februarius, which was named after Februa, an ancient Roman purification festival held on the 15th of the month. What were they purifying? Thank you for that. That's where the rue comes in February. Not only can you get your Magic the Gathering updates, you can get your interesting pieces of historical regalia. All right. Dockside Extortionist. I've looked at this card price. It's taken a little bit of a spike. Now, let's look at the price here because I was considering trying to get this. I put it in the group chat and bros said, they're sold out in stores, but like there's a $10 to $15 version of this card available now. Used to be $100, $29 for this foil Double Masters Bourdales. But the cheapskate is this one here, $14.80. Let's take a look at the chart on this. Put it in brackets. Up to about the $10 mark. That's Mitgo. Nobody cares about Mitgo. We want our cardboard quadrilateral costs in real time. All right, $60 to $80 USD. That's a hundo and 20 in Canadian funny money. These snow Mexican pesos don't buy you much in the world of Magic the Gathering. It was $80 card in Casabambo. Down here, this friend has been like, this thing's picking Brody's nose at this point here. Right in there. So the Dockside is an interesting case for discussion around the bans and what might get unbanned. But there's no question that it's a game-changing effect. Now, this card, a lot of people say it's too good, but this was actually, fun fact about the Dockside Extortionist, this was actually a board state balancing card because the player who played on turn 4 in Commander could arguably be behind so far. If you've been in the 4th seat in a pod in Commander, it hurts if you don't get your Soul Ring. And some people in the seat 1, especially if seat 1, 2, and 3 all have good plays, like a Soul Ring and a Signet off the hop, and you're sitting in 4th seat. And like you may not have such a strong hand, and then you have the Dockside. So this is actually was a boost to the person with the most disadvantage in the game, sitting in the 4th seat. They could pop the Dockside after 3 players have put their rocks out, and then sort of scrape themselves back into the game. So this was actually to balance the format in Once Upon a Time. Thanks to the fourth rate Podmates for that little tip. Now it's just too good because you can blink it. You can win the game on the spot. And it was game changing to say the least. But for 2 mana, this red aligned deck is able to create so many obscene amount of treasures and mana. You can blink it, reanimate it, copy it, and you'll likely have all the treasure you're going to need to win the game. Considering that this treasure lets you generate mana of any color, it's safe to say Dockside is pretty obscenely strong. If you wanted to power up your deck, Dockside is an auto include in Commander if you had money for it. That's why we're looking at the price of this. Get out the flour and butter. It's February. Mix it up and make it thick, right? A thick boy. It seems unlikely to be on the first round of unbans. That's a fact. Beyond being a useful and balancing tool, the Game Changers list is also an avenue for bans and unbans. What is the Game Changers list? Okay, as the announcement from Wizards of the Coast came yesterday, the bracket system that we're talking about, bracket system, okay, parentheses. As the name somewhat suggests for Game Changers list, this list contains some of the most powerful cards in Commander, and each have the potential to warp games. So as a balancing tool, this has been introduced, allowing exploratory changes that don't affect the whole format. Wizards has already confirmed new unbans are in the works. So far, Wizards hasn't confirmed any cards that they're watching, but players clearly have their suspicions. The Dockside, always suspicious when it hits the battlefield. Well, there's no question that the Docky Boy is a powerful card. There's no denying it fits the Game Changers vibe. Dockside can turn a tide in game in an instant, enable absolutely insane shenanigans, and this effect may have been too strong for casual-oriented Commander, but the new bracket system fixed that problem. Disclaimer, Brody owns this many. 0. Can I do that? I can do that. Brody owns this many Dockside extortionists. 0. Never had one, never opened one. This is one of those cards like Hull Breacher, and Opposition Agent, even Dark Confidant. These are all hits that are expensive, that were insanely pricey when they were mid top of their pile in their formats, such as Modern. So you wanted to open these. I didn't want to rush out and buy a play set of Bob's because that's like $360 to put it in the rock. So now I'm more of like I guess trying to open it, Tarmogoyf, anything can happen. So those hits I usually try and chase. It seems likely this will be unbanned in the first round. The spike of the card right now doesn't confirm that Dockside is going to be unbanned, but during the late April Commander announcement, despite uncertainty, players have nonetheless been keen to invest in Dockside now that the potential is back on the table. And surprisingly, this monumental demand has caused one hell of a sudden price spike. Now, think of the Jeweled Lotus. Okay, Jeweled Lotus could possibly be a target. Why wouldn't it go to CEDH? If we introduce a bracket system that introduces an entirely new way of thinking about banned and restricted lists, a good speculation might be, if you got some bones to throw around, this is going to be one of the pickups you might want to look at, perhaps even the Jeweled Lotus. Yesterday, copies of Dockside were selling for as little as $10, which is bad, considering he sees absolutely no play at the moment. Following yesterday's Commander announcement, the price immediately jumped to $22.79, while the near instant doubling is already rather impressive. Some players have paid upwards of $39. $39. The Docky Boy. Not a bad card if you can get it, if you can open it. I wouldn't have wanted to bought into Dockside Extortionist, but let's face it, it wouldn't be the first time that this happened. Magic the Gathering bracket rules announcement. Let's take another look at it and let's get into the trash and the salt. See if we can get to the Wizards page. Then we get to the salt, all the shenanigans that arises around the discussion of brackets, discussing the introduction of the brackets beta test. This guy from the Hair Club for Men presents the best of the Commander format panel. Number one, and many people playing Commander, noting changes. All right. Nothing will change. No, except everything will change. Here's a complicated solution to a simple problem. If you haven't, do we want to read the whole article? I want the Commander rules people to disclose their financials and check their card moves. Mike is clipping. Uh-oh. In pursuit of K. Are we still clipping? Could be clipping. I could turn the volume. Is it too loud? Number one. All right, a little mic check there. So number one, for many people, it notes that nothing will change. You can continue to play with your friends as you always have and dig into the system, and that's totally fine. Tons of regular play groups have figured out what works for them, which is great. We're already seeing folks try to tune decks into brackets to be the best that they can be. And then there's the other side of the argument that says if you're playing at the highest power level, you're fully missing the point of the description of each bracket as it reads. You know what I think is my ultra casual commander deck? What is your ultra casual commander deck? Well, my ultra casual commander deck is the deck that does the most fun stuff. It should still try to win though. Nothing like a dirtily deck. All right. So number two is that the system cannot stop bad actors. Oh, bad actors, beware. If someone wants to lie to you and play a mismatch, they can't prevent that. However, a lot of people just want to play games in earnest with others who have decks like theirs. And this aims to help in that regard. There's many ways that the system to be honest with yourself and others as you play them. Number three, okay, this is a beta test. So this is the feedback portion of this rollout to the bracket system. While excited about this, we are also surprised if it was perfect. Okay. So please, I encourage you to tell us your thoughts. The Commander Channel official Discord is a great place as well as other social media outlets. So this is where you can war cry and online pitchfork. See, it's funny because like we had a rules committee that was formed because of online pitchforking, but now if you want to pitchfork a card, this is the place to do it. They're taking all feedback seriously where you can make a case for how this is working. Watching for feedback at MagicCon as well. Want to be sure to have this out ahead of the event so we can put that into action. A portion of the command zone will be designated for testing this. All right. And then the commander brackets overview. The one thing I wanted to look at was like, was there any particular commanders that were tiered? That might be an interesting, or bracketized. That might be an interesting. Well, that was what was interesting about the brackets is that there was no sorting of a particular commander that gets designated into a particular bracket. For example, Captain Sisay, the Weatherlight captain, if that card can be played in all the brackets from 1 to 5, it's that good of a card. So you can build like a bracket 1 Captain Sisay deck, which is quite competitive, has win games and all the tricks that the powerful number 5 bracket CEDH, high powered, very competitive, metagame focused build. They could also build it to meet the criteria of exhibition, which is the lower power level. You restrict it. But so the interesting part about this was that commanders did not get assigned to a specific bracket, meaning that any commander could be built that's legal, already not banned. altogether, because like banning is just on and off for commanders. So I sort of expected there to be a method to bracketize commanders to say, hey, this commander is automatically a bracket 3 commander. That's what I expected. So this is a little bit different than expectations. Instead, with this system of 1 through 5, the lowest bracket has the most restrictions on types of cards you can play. I wanted to find the definition for you because there was also some nomenclature added that was further defined as land denial, and that includes some examples of cards that fit that criteria. So, in each bracket, you find guidance around the 4 kinds of effects that have been further defined into the brackets: 2 card infinite combos, extra turns, land denial in mass, and tutors. So those are the 4 categories that sort of get toggled on and off. Rather than assigning a commander to a particular bracket, they assigned certain types of effects to each bracket. For a little bit of additional definition around mass land denial, we've further defined it as a category of its own that cards that commander players can find frustrating, where you're cutting off one of the key elements of the game. Land. You got to play land. You can lose the game without land. So to emphasize this up front, you should not expect to see these cards in any brackets 1 to 3. So their examples of that would be the Ruination, Sunder, Winter Orb, and the Blood Moon effects. Examples are Armageddon's also on the list. Okay, so no Arma-G. So basically they banned Arma-G. Funny enough, I had just recently built Arma-G into an Omnath deck. So getting a little too powerful, using Living Plane to make all creatures 1/1s and then have Arma-G out there, right? All right, all lands are destroyed, so mass land denial not allowed. So mass land, no 2 card infinite combos, no game changers. This is another bone of contention that I've seen at stores. The 2 card infinite combo. So this is not the same as 2 card infinite game interactions. I've been in situations where you present a loop that makes a very good game interaction. It doesn't win you the game, but for example, High Tide and Palancrone, is that an infinite combo? So this is where another problem may step in as far as infinite combos goes. Good morning, goeiemorgen. Nice to see you. Having a little cup of coffee here in my super backer mug. We're discussing the brackets in brackets, and we're also going to be taking a trip over to my favorite Magic the Gathering news site over at the stock desk. We haven't got there yet. It's going to be some interesting facts, articles coming out about this. So let's keep an eye out for that a little bit farther down the road. Right now, we're just enjoying a very smooth and relaxed morning, getting our head around this news that came out yesterday. So the 2 card infinite combo conundrum. Infinite game interactions does not equal infinite combos. However, if you present a loop that perhaps makes infinite mana, how many interactions are you allowed to take with that? 1, 2, 3, 4? What's the number? Okay, this can be a hedge or a cudgel for people who make in-store rules, either allowing certain interactions or not, or a certain number of repetitions of a game action. Exhibition Core upgraded, optimized, and CEDH. I like to I like to see what's going to happen in this category here, especially with cards like Jeweled Lotus, Dockside Extortionist, and any other the Mana Crypts were banned and put to the wayside last fall. So I'm having a feeling, and this is sort of what this sentiment and news articles is talking about that this unbannings would likely appear in bracket 5, which is now CEDH. It could likely be the future for Jeweled Lotus to say that the Jeweled Lotus is only CEDH playable. Nevertheless, you can make your own rules in your rule group. Throw down your opinion on this with a little bit of discussion here this morning. So let's take a look at, at this system. We'll make some opinions and thoughts about how this might affect the prices of Magic cards going forward. And what did you hear that? Did you hear that? What is that sound? Oh, it's time. It's time for your movers and the shakers. That's what time it is. Let's get ready to look at your moves and the shakers. Uh, so Stone Rain and Orcish Settlers are CEDH bracket 5 then. Mass land denial. Be mass. Dwarven Miner. It's probably all right. This guy here. Destroy target non-basic land. Target land, okay. What about crop rotation effects? Tutors, is that considered a tutor or is that considered a replacement effect? So the more discussion is going to come out while we check out these movers and these shakers and we have a little bit of coffee. Thanks for joining me. Betson, it's the Thursday. How do we work this? Modern Monday, Tuesday, Pioneer, Whopper Popper Wednesday, Thursday, Legacy, Spicy, my likey. All right. Hey, I got something to talk about. Because this card on the top of the pile here made me think about this. Printing proxies. We'll get there. Where's the link, Brody? How do you fit these two together? All right. Being as though we're talking legacy today, it might be a good day to talk about proxies. Proxies to me about proxies. Proxies, I'm beginning to be more fond of proxies as time goes by. I think we got to define what a proxy is. If you're going to allow proxies in a play group, what we do in our play group is we allow like printed proxies that are like not a card in front of another card, like not a paper cutout in front of another card for tournament play. But as far as play testing goes, cutouts in front of cards are great because it lets you know if you want to buy that card or invest in it to include in your deck. Sometimes you look at a card, you play test it as a proxy, you see how it interacts. Sometimes some cards don't work at all for you. Just like certain commanders, like some commanders can kind of like hate certain players. They don't they don't fuse well. So in that case, if like a card's not for you, you ever had that card or that deck build that you really wanted to try, but just no matter what you did, it just not suited for your play style? We've all found that. So proxies are a good way around it to try and weed out some of those cards that you just don't like in the play pattern. It may cost you $40 to $50 to get a copy of them. So play testing with proxies is a decent idea. But if you like take a card like Tabernacle, if you want to decide whether or not you want to play the land stack, you're gonna have to proxy that to get it into your deck. So a place that I went, I was trying to find some I wish somebody in Canada would start printing proxies. Or what are they called? Alternate cards, right? So made my first proxy order because I wanted to get some of these legacy or CEDH staples to play test with, and I didn't want to bear the burden of sticking some of these expensive cards in the deck. Which sees Tabernacle at the Pendrell Vale also coming up at the top of the pile. This card's going to see some action. It's up 1%, 30.75, 30. Excuse me. Hold on. There's one more All right, 3075 for the Le Tabernacle de Pedroville. An interesting game interaction with this. I'm currently playing this in an Omnath, the Locus of Creation build. That's the 4-color Omnath. And there's a neat card that I found on the reserve list, and it's this card. I like it. This one, Living Plane, all land or 1/1 creatures. So if you're playing a lands build that recurs lands from the graveyard, this enchant world is interesting because not only does it make you treat all lands as 1/1 creatures that have summoning sickness, can't be tapped for mana the turn they're put into play. This is an enchant world, so this would get rid of other enchant worlds perhaps. This thing is $237. But when you combine that with a card like this, the Tabernacle of Penril Vale, and then you've got cards like Lumra, the bear, that brings lands back from the graveyard. Lumra, the Bellow of the Woods. This is a green card, and may I point to the color identity of my commander. This sucker can't counter spells. It's a great fun commander. Maybe this is a bracket 1 or 2 commander. It seems like a mono green commander might be quite fun. This Vigilant Star has power and toughness equal to the number of lands you control, but when it enters, you mill 4 and then return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So you combine that with the Living Plane, the Tabernacle makes all lands a 1/1 that get an upkeep of 1. All your so is this mass land denial? So speaking of brackets, this is the way I like to play this card. No way about it. So when we talk about mass land and all, you can get it on a stick. You can get it with Ruination. You can get it with Winter Orb. You can get it with Winter Moon. You can get it with Blood Moon. But there are ways to BYO land denial. And this would be one way to do it with the Tabernacle of Penril Vale, Living Plane, and a card like Ramunap Excavator or Lumra, the Bellow of the Woods. Ramunap. Take a nap, Ramunap. He's feeling a little tired today. He needs a nap. This Ramunap Excavator lets you play lands from your graveyard. It's got the Crucible World effects, and you've got Thalia and the Gitrog monster to boot. Oh, this one's neat. This would be your commander. It's got great color pips on it. If you want to play 3 colors, you get the first strike, death touching, additional land drop per turn, and creatures and non-basic lands your opponents control enter the battlefield tap. So is this mass land denial commander? Perhaps this is banned in tier bracket 1. Bracket land denial. Creatures and non-basic lands enter tapped if it's in your opponent's field, and whenever Tally and the Gitrog attack, you sack a creature or land, then draw a card. So you get the additional land drop. That's my commander, Thalia and the Gitrog. It's great. The frogs are good. The frogs are good. The frogs work well together. Death touchy boy. At the beginning of your upkeep, sack the Gitrog. Unless you sack a land, you may play an additional land when one or more lands put in the graveyard from anywhere. Draw a card. This is great, commander. This is great. This is great. Why is everybody here afraid of the bracket? Why is everyone here afraid of the brackets? I ain't afraid of no brackets. No, no, not afraid of the brackets. It's just something new, so we have to complain about it. Um, okay, I'm afraid of the brackets. Okay, so what? I can be afraid of the brackets. I fear the brackets. Yes. Oh, you know what I'm afraid of in the brackets is like when people talk about these brackets and why they're creating the brackets, it's because like one of the primary drivers is to create a positive game experience for the majority of players. All right. So that assumes that there are people having a negative game experience. So now we have to quantify what constitutes a negative game experience, whether it be land denial or power imbalance. It usually goes only one way. I haven't seen instances where it goes the other way, where you have somebody playing a low power deck who gets upset at players who are playing like more optimal decks, top decks. And usually the salt only goes one way. So like the whole concept that the invention of the brackets is to create a more positive gaming experience. If you're used to like playing competitively, you will understand that you don't always win all your games. Yes, there are some people that so that meta, the imbalance, because we've all been to events where you've got a certain player with a certain deck build that is like the best player of the group at the highest competitive level. So when you start playing with competitive decks, you're up against the exact same thing that you're up against with less competitive or bracket one decks. When you sit down at a table, you obviously know you're at a disadvantage. So you want to like adjust your play style to see how your deck will perform when you choose lines of play that will arguably interact the best with those competitive decks, which is exactly the same as going to like a legacy top 8 and having to see all the best players at the top of the field, and you sit down and you're like, well, it would be nice if I won this game. The odds are against me, but I don't throw salt at the opponent because they've won like the last 8 top 8s. They're probably just the best player. So at a competitive level, I think players better understand that, because if you're used to playing with top tier decks and top players, you can get a sense for the field and the meta as to which players are the strongest, most experienced, have the best head for the game and play lines. And there's always that one player that just nobody can beat and always wins tournaments. That's no different than sitting down with an underpowered deck at a group with 3 other CDEDH decks and expecting to win. But people handle those things differently. So the concept that the whole bracket, this is why people are afraid of the brackets, because it's like fixing a problem that only exists for certain situations. For other people who are used to playing CEDH and playing against top decks and could care less if they win or lose because it's expected, like there's like better players and better decks out there. You expect to lose a lot of you should expect to lose like 25% of the time because it's like a 4-player game, right? The words competitive and EDH don't mix except in EDH tournaments. For the brackets are for casual. Why are you talking? The brackets are for casual. Why are you talking about that? There is too much risk of collusion by the nature of the commander. I can even see sanctioned commander tournament brackets do nothing to solve this. Tournaments are not sanctioned. Well, that's a good opinion. Hey, Twiddler's here. Holy smokes. Good morning, Twids. Are you just left out in if you're not the right bracket? I that's the thing, is you could show up to any card store and like I would put like a bracket 1 deck against like some bracket. Why not? I'm just gonna find an example of bracket 1, technically a bracket 1 EDH deck, okay? Now, shortly after, and this is exactly the discussion that I'm talking about, the discussion has to happen. So, right here, immediately after the bracket system dropped, people took brewing, and here's a very cool deck list from Teleria East. This is the Oath of Bracket 1. Okay, so they brings me back to my earlier point of Captain Sisse. So you got Sisse. Now, we don't have the commanders slotted into individual brackets, like further segregation of certain cards and mechanics. So we're not going to assign a commander to a particular bracket. So let's assume that Sisse can be played across any bracket. And quite frankly, if I go to if I want to build my janky deck, then I have lots. And anybody who has played with me always Brody has these like janky two ofs or janky one of effects that everyone's like, that doesn't seem good. And until it is. So situational. So, but like the Sisay deck has all the shenanigans in it. And this is technically a bracket one deck. If you want to play Sisay and you're fond of her, you get the Animatu line, you get the Ashiok, you get the Nicol Bolas Dragon God line, you get the Jubilant Brawler line, and then you get like the ability to Teferi's Oath of Teferi on your end step. And like this has all the lines, all the good stuff for the Captain Sisay build, but technically a bracket one deck. Now, what is casual? Well, casually playing the most powerful deck that you can in any format. So here's an example. This deck got a lot of salt. People were angry at this deck. You're not following the rules as intended. So rules as intended is different than rules as written, right? It depends on what type of player you are. Or if you're a rules as an intended player or rules as written player, right? Okay, so according to ultra the classification of ultra casual commander deck, this could be argued that this a build is not an ultra casual for some people. It feels like the the arguing always comes around when people are trying to punch up. That's where the arguments start. When people are trying to punch up. And it's not working out for them. Punching beyond your weight class, I suppose. So shakers, movers, shakers. Fast land denial in the tabernacle of Pendrell Vale. That's why this card is $3,075. It's not only good in Commander, but it's seen a home in Legacy for many years. This is probably the card that mostly backbones in the lands build. It's like a one of. Sometimes it can be played in the main, sometimes in the sideboard. This card's always going to be desirable. Another reason why, like, it's the same as the proxy argument, right? So the heated discussion around brackets and cards is like the same as the proxy argument. Wizard wants players to do this work. That's why they say brackets are a beta test. So the community will tell them what they missed. Got to do something. Too much risk of collusion by the nature of Commander. I can't see a sanctioned Commander tournament. Can't ever see it. Brackets do nothing to solve this. The brackets are for casual. All right, casual. So this goes to another point of mine in pursuit of knowledge. If you're still listening, so rules are written so that when players travel to a new play group or a new destination or another store outside of their local meta, they have an expectation of what they will see when they arrive there. So it's one thing to play with a known play group of individuals where like discussion is frequent, gameplay is repetitive. But when you travel a significant distance to play in a different meta with different people and everything's anew, you need some kind of a expectation of what you'll see. That's why rules as written is important because everybody will have a different opinion as to what is intended. So that's why I like the rules as written portion of this because if there's a casual event which won't be sanctioned at a card store where it's a Friday night or a Saturday night commander matchup, the store might say, well, it's like bracket 3. That's what we play here. So fair enough. So what are you going to put in your bracket 3 deck? Moat for $899. I don't know how we're doing this. The Moat's Targeted speculation. Non-flying creatures cannot attack. This is mass creature denial. All right, the Modi Boy. This one's up at around 899 bucks. I want to check the chart on this one. It was Legacy Day. It's bracket Legacy Day. Legacy. This thing was 3,000 bucks. It got hit with a buyout back in 2021. And once again, earlier than that, I'm pretty certain this thing's seen two buyouts, at least. A card that brought a lot of attention to the reserve list. This card was as high as 2,800 bucks. That's a boat. About a boat. Long history of price drift on this card. It's been trending down for quite some time. Decks playing it. Well, we've got some commander decks playing it. People like the defense. I would have thought this is more of a casual commander card. There's also dual commander, and some folks in the play group said, isn't their bracket 4 just Canadian Highlander? Point system. Morning, folks. Richie's Dubs is in the house. Nice to see you, Richie. Always wanted a moat since my very first deck, Stasis. I've always wanted a moat as well. Probably a card that I should have proxied. So what I did is I went to printingproxies.com and I did the $49, $100.50 a card package. And like I ordered a bunch of these so like that I can get some like decent proxies. So I tried some of these cards. I should have put moat on the list. All right. Proxies are also good if you want to rotate some cards out of a certain deck and into like a collection or into another deck. If you only have single copies of it, I don't know anybody who's got multiple copies of moat kicking around, one for each deck. So like a proxy might be a good way to go, or two. That way you don't have to like skin it out as a placeholder in a deck. It's another frustrating thing is like trying to have multiple decks, right? Multiple decks. So a lot of people might have multiple decks that are tribal or meet, some people have like 8 or 10 commander decks. But building 2 or 3 can get quite expensive, even one. So printing proxies, I think you can get almost a whole commander deck for about 150 bucks. Some of the auction sales have a lot of these dual lands. It seems like the only place to find these is not in LGSs that I don't sell online. I can never find this card or any of the other dual lands in a showcase. I've seen a lot of these up on auction, especially in golden auctions and heritage auctions. A lot of these have coming through. In fact, I got to check golden today. Holy smokes. There's some bids in on this. Let's just hey, look, a monkey. He look, a squirrel. Let me check golden here real quick because I saw some Magic the Gathering cards. You can check all the places, right? Kind of funny. 27 bids. All right. What do we got here? Golden Auctions has a bunch of these dual lands, and a lot of them are graded showing up. Right now, there's 11 hours on this. 27 bidders. There's very, very, very few chance that these are going to go for as low as $160. The near mint 8s and the near mint 7s. Here we got like 37 bids in at 155 bucks. I actually started an account over here so that maybe I could track some of these prices. Hey, Twids, how you doing? Bob, I'm melting mobs now. I didn't know my sparks picked up Flame Wall or Orb. All right, so watch the auction house. When you look at those card stores, they seem to have maybe 1 or 2 of these, but the auction houses have plenty in there. A lot of these are graded. I think almost all the ones in page 1 here in this first lot are graded. Some got bids down to 107 bucks, so that leads me to believe like a lot of people selling out of Magic. I think we're starting to see a little bit of an imbalance in the supply. Supply at auction house high, supply at card shops low. Kijiji might be another place to take to the streets. Here's an interesting copy of Yawgmoth's Will for $250. Found a couple of things that I wanted to just take a look at. I messaged one seller on there. I thought, like, this seems like too good to be true. Sometimes you see the odd The item on here for a price that is like way too good to be true, looks like it's taken down. Hmm. High supply on the auction house, low supply in stores, quite a lot of supply on eBay of the dual lands, always a premium price. Yeah, here's hard. This one's $800. Could be a proxy. Is it not a proxy? I don't know. Hard to say. So some of these got a price check all over and see what's going online. Are people selling Kijiji selling dual lands, underground seas, collections, Badlands, another one. You can't count days off of Badlands, but another dual land nonetheless. The Abyss at $650. Cards eluded myself for a long time. Proxy version might be a way to get it if you want to play it. Disenchant World costs a black and 3, and it says all players bury one target non-artifact creature under their control during their upkeep, if they have any. This thing sucks a creature off the board each turn. It reminds me of the Ghost Show. One of your creatures gets sucked off of the battlefield, right? $650 for the Abyss. This one here, uh, perhaps a buy if you're looking to get it. It's been a lot higher during reserve list buyouts. This card in as high as $3,000. I don't know if that's an accurate, schmaccurate. How's the audio, boys? I don't understand how Mindslaver, Memory Jar, Omniscience did not make the game changer list for brackets. Really? Well, you know what's funny about some of those cards? Like, let's look at it. Mindslaver is not bad, right? This is Commander playable. And it's also playable Legacy, Vintage, and Modern. So Mindslaver, interesting. Yeah. How are those not game changing effects? Sorry, Brody. Poet to talk. Oh, I don't know. So, just an interesting note about those suggestions. Mindslaver, Omniscience, also not banned, but Memory Jar, a card that's banned in Legacy. Okay, it's restricted in Commander. This card, good case for this card, banned in Legacy, restricted in Vintage, not legal in Modern or any other formats. It is legal in Commander, however. So I don't see why this was not included in a game changer either. Very powerful card. Even the Emrakul that mind slavers an opponent. Taking the control of opponent's turn, whew, super game changing. That's almost like an extra turn, right? It's equivalent to an extra turn, is it not? I think the feedback will come in on some of these effects. It could just get out of control here. Gauntlet of Might for 650 on the reserve list from Unlimited. This thing's been flying along west to east and just kind of not really getting a lot of traction. Maybe red decks. You don't want to pay the 4 mana to get +1/+1 and extra mana. Commander plays it. The Crank Goblin, why not? Norin the Wary, Dragon, Torban the Train of Fell, Magda the Brazen Outlaw, Bergie the God of Storytelling. My audio's choppy. I gotta close some stuff. Close all non-essential. Okay, well, let's just carry on here with the chop. Mission Workshop. Here's another card that I ordered off Printing Proxies. I did. I wanted to get it. Put in, I don't understand how there's another argument for this card. How did this card not make it as a game changer? You can turn one Soul Ring, turn one Arcane Signet off of this. Also, perhaps a game changing card. So, Workshop, a card that's been neck and neck with the Bazaar of Baghdad, a very, very epic, well loved vintage card. This thing rivals the Bazaar of Baghdad in price and playability, depending on how the meta goes. But again, this card CEDH playable, yes. 1v1 commander playable, absolutely. Pyramids, another card that got targeted with a buyout. Probably the only reason this card is held up as well as it has to $120. Elephant Graveyard, not sure who's playing that, but wait till we get some good mammoth. And the Chains of Mephistopheles, this one goes sort of hand in hand with the Abyss, right on the same sort of a list. These two from the Four Horsemen set, the Abyss, Chains, Nether Void, all decent black cards. Let's hit the stock desk here one more time. Price to watch and Aether Drift. Let's see what we got here. All right. An article from Matt Grzecznik. The bottom gear. Aether Drift, hard to get excited about it. The only card that I'm really super stoked on is the new Hashaton Commander. A lot of cards have been purchased to complement that. So if we're going to talk about Aether Drift, we can't do that without talking about Hashaton, the commander that's making headlines. It's only a matter of time, and I've been following MTG Top 8 to see if any of the Star City Games events have been published there. This card, notably taking down a recent event. I want to see if I can find the deck list. It's still not up. They're backed up till the 2nd of February, so I'm waiting for another update to come out on the top deck. I think we're going to see Hashaton played and in the meta game. Once that gets published, we're going to see more driving, and we'll actually see a few lists pop up. This P8 build of there with the Hashaton, notably Tortured Existence, and a couple of other Hashaton interactions, cards that have done very well in the last week or two, thanks to the Hashaton release. All right. Matt's got the necessary ingredients for us. And broadly speaking, the set and cards within it feature many reoccurring mechanics while improving on existing strategies found across many formats, with greater emphasis on vehicles and cycling of cards. Its scope is rather niche, and thematically, it may not appeal to everyone. So it took about 2 weeks for Matt to turn out the idea of a death race style set, and surely individual cards have worn him down and made him more excited to speculate about the release and this impact and how the markets are going to react to it. While there's some clear winners, there's also some major pitfalls ahead of us. And on the same matter that certain car-centric movie franchise furiously speak within its early installments, watching should limit our return to Omen Path Racing. We've got a brave new Mox. Money cards sell set boxes in a statement of full confidence that might be hard to figure. Maybe we got to drop some of these additional windows. Drop some windows. That might help the audio. I think that could free up some space. We'll get some better audio going here. Okay. Cards sell set boosters in the statements of full confidence that many would find hard to argue against. The greater the booster box expected value, the amount of that product will be open until market reservice. Audio's choppy, still choppy, super choppy. What if we do this? Disappear. What happened? Brody disappeared. I'm going to disappear and reappear out of thin air. All right. Well, this camera is actually quite weird. It's got to be the new camera. Sucks up a lot of juice. Let me see if. Hello, McFly. Hello, McFly. Stream crash. That's okay. I think I disappeared myself. You went to shrink the box? Where there? Video. Try this one. Whoa. Okay, now Brody's too big. Hmm. All right, Brody's too big. Still here, Bob? Thanks, buddy. Thanks for kicking around with I figure out my stuff. Where's that one now? Oh, we lost the microphone. Let's see here. Close that down. Lost my mic too. Streams crashed. Oh no, I still got my mic. We're good. Okay. Audio's probably fine. Maybe I got rid of some of the chop. Hard to say. Oh, Matt, I butchered your article. I'm so sorry. Uh, we're talking card prices to watch in Aether Drift, all right? Like seeing a seed bloom in your garden. Brave new mocks. All right. Aether Drift, yet again, players have experienced changes to aspects of their product. And firstly, the number of booster packs has decreased from 36 to 30. Boo! Uh, Secondly, the MSRP is back, which will make some bargain hunters happy. As a distraction to these changes, there'll also be a modification of box toppers with the big inclusion of a Chrome Mox, seeing strong play in both legacy and vintage. The baseline for Chrome Mox is anywhere from $95 to $107, with early indications of the reprint curbing the upward price trend. You still there, Bob? Are we still getting it? All right. Well, holy smokes. Now it's 30 packs in a box instead of 36. I love the 36. I love the days of a 36 pack are over. Another noteworthy card, the Bone Miser, the 4/4 zombie wizard. Whenever you discard a creature card, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Whenever you discard a land, get double black. And when you discard a non creature land, draw a card. It's an enchantment. This has got it's got an enchantment card on a stick. What's the black enchantment for one black and one? There's already an enchantment that does that. Waste not. That's the one. Okay, another noteworthy inclusion of the special guest list is the Bone Wiser. The creature is the is the creature version of Waste Not. Thank you, Matt. I was hanging it out there pretty hard, which has exploded in price over the last 3 weeks. The price graph displays this card jumping sharply from $10 to 29, which looks like a specific buyout that will self-regulate in price sooner than later. And it's great to have new options in terms of art and reprints. At 5 mana, the price point is questionable at best for long-term investment. How's the audio now? Audio's not choppy now. Perfect. Thank you. You know, I got to get some better audio. I think it's perhaps the camera that I have. It takes up too much juice. Discard to exile. Monument of Endurance is a catch-all card for the self-discard decks that are strongly encouraged and seeing a price rise. Being able to acquire these three different benefits every turn is a very tempting offer, especially at a low cost investment. Monument costs you 3 to cast it. Whenever you discard a card, choose one that hasn't been chosen. You get to either draw, make a treasure, or drain each opponent for 3. Uh, Tempting offer. Benefits. All right. Decks with benefits. With a primary emphasis on EDH and the vast quantity of decks where this card fits perfectly into, it's quite easy to see its utility. And from Flubs the Fool to Verena the Lich, the Monument of Endurance continues to be a tempting inclusion for your 99 cards. While it's hard to see the potential for a breakout in other formats, I've been surprised by cards like this before. Currently pre-releasing pricing average around $10, though this will likely see a rapid decline closer to the 3 to 5 mark before appreciating in value. How did the pre-sales go? This card must have been hot on pre-sale. Chet Ramos, the new Dawn, the menacing lifelink 4/4, which is a much stronger 60 card constructed potential. It's got the Ket Ramos and the Dawn in modern, combining it with the likes of Unearthed and Psychic Fraud could generate enough value to outpace your opponent. This one's got Menace, Lifelink, Indestructible. It can't be blocked, attack, or block unless there are 7 or more cards in exile. When one or more cards are put into exile from the graveyard and the battlefield during your turn, you draw a card and lose life. Transitioning into Esper isn't a major stretch. Ketramos is already seeing strong price ahead of its release at $28 and will likely stay above the $20 mark unless it struggles to find a variable home in any format. Viably, $28. That's an expensive, that's not just a viable home, that's a viable condo. On another note, it's a card benefiting from the sausage effects of exile, which is great to see as these are less common than graveyard interaction cards. Benefiting from the usage of exile effects, which is great to see as they're less common than graveyard interaction. Holy smokes. There we go. Finally, somebody's talking about this. Some of commander decks of utmost importance for the set turned out to be, oh, where'd it go? All right. The commander decks of the set turned out to be above average in both decks and the value and in cards included. The Eternal Might deck, let's see. I didn't even look at the other decks. I was just like Hashaton, Hashaton, Hashaton. Didn't even care. But the Eternal Might deck is currently stirring up prices with more great inclusions like Hashaton, the Sheriff's Fist. The popularity is starting to see conversation in sealed prices and decks. Vendors, many vendors reaching $70 for the Esper deck and 40 for the Timber counterpart. I can see the impact here, but wonder about the long-term opportunities that lie in older sets. With many discard matters cards being value-driven, some remain untouched. For example, I would have expected Tireless Tribe to start gaining in value as a free outlet for Hashaton Scarab's Fist, but so far it remains under the radar. The card that's actually starting to see move is the Tortured Existence and a few others that work well. A key price driver for the Esper deck is the Renewed Solidarity. All right. For 1 white and 2, you get an enchantment that enters and you get it's an anthem. For 1/0, at the beginning of your end step for each token you control the chosen type, it's enter this way, you create a token that's a copy of it. Wow. Another doubling season type effect. Doubling Season, Smother. I thought it's got Smothering Tide mana, so it's an enchantment that serves as a reward for tribal decks that are interested in creating tokens. Basically, uh, if you know that the tokens you're creating will always be of one type, then the tribal effect doesn't really apply. For example, Edgar Markov and Marnius Calgar have very loose restrictions and requirements for the tokens they create. On a other hand, we focus less on creature type and more on commander than we have other options like the Jolly Balloon Man, and it'll always give us the same type no matter what the base creature. Renewed Solidarity coming in at $17.44. Pretty expensive card for just being released. After it's all said and done, the Renewed Solidarity could be another Doubling Season, or what's the white one? Usually green. Parallel Live. Renewed Solidarity could drop towards the $10 range. Due to it being too focused for a wide range of decks, however, barring additional reprints, this price could easily double within the next 2 years. Aetherdrift is full of twists and turns that keep us looking towards the finish line. While its theme and execution may not appeal to everybody, we believe that there's wealth of interesting cards to appreciate and plenty of opportunities for speculation. It's very early enough to see some undervalued prices for those of us who are inclined to. And after all is said and done with the over impact of the set, it's going to be rather minimal. And we don't see too many playables emerge until we get another month past post release. A contributing factor to this is the exclusion from the set from Regional Championship Portland. Prices will likely gain momentum for Pro Tour Aetherdrift in the 21st of February. Join me again for another exploration of the secret lair. Thanks, Matt, for another article here discussing the goods in store for Aetherdrift. Very nice. All right, we're getting out of here. It's well past the hour. The bros got to go. Thanks for joining us here this morning up in the top corner of the orange box. Bob, you're a champ. Thanks, friend. We'll talk to you again real soon.